Today we're talking about myths and how myths are more than just stories. They're things that never happened but always were. Myths show us how to live our life. They're maps for us in ways that guide our unconscious thoughts, our social interactions, our relationship to the greatest questions of our life. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where do I come from? Where am I going? And the intersection in yoga between what Joesph Campbell called the great mythic realms and what we're practicing on our mat, I think have a really fundamental, fascinating, and profound overlap. So let's get into it and check it out. The first mythic realm we're going to explore is the cosmological function. This was the aspect of Joesph Campbell's theory that humans try to place themselves within meaning around the great cosmological structure of the things that are greater than, the things that, though, can be seen. The sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the trees, everything that goes beyond self in a way that is other than. The cosmological realm is something that helps us recognize that we are significant and insignificant at the same time. So how does this show up in yoga? One aspect of the cosmological realm that shows up in yoga is the way that we start every practice. With child's pose, there's a certain sense of surrender to that. But even the series, a normal vinyasa, you've got this idea of integration. And what you're integrating are the different aspects of yourself to really get present with where you come from, where you're going, and where you're at, where the overlap between all of that is, so that you can really begin the practice fully embodied in a sense of presence. Another aspect of the cosmological realm showing up in our yoga practice is Surya Namaskar, sun salutations. So sun salutations on a metaphorical level, but also on a meaningful and effectual level, are about tuning our inner rhythms with the rhythms of those cosmologies that surround us. Everything from the days of the week to the weeks of the year to the seasons and cycles of the years and decades of our life. So that when we do sun salutations, it on one hand loosens the grip on what it is that we're holding on to needlessly and helps us get a little bit better grasp on a tuning into where we need to be, a refinement of how these greater bodies of being are affecting our individual experience. The cosmological function helps us orient ourselves towards the abundant rather than scarcity. It gives us an idea that we don't have to just simply accept things based off of what our desires are, nor the struggles of our life, where the border of our existence and that which is greater, everything else, gives us meaning, gives us intention, and gives us purpose. This is really the beginning of where we begin to ask the question, what is the map that I'm following on a grander scale in my life? The second mythic realm outlined for us is the sociological realm. This is where we find rules, laws, value, social status, and most importantly, relationship. Relationship, laws, all these things, they are real things. But it's the mythic aspect of the way that we interact with them through belief and through the way in which they inform the way that we should consider ourselves. This is the important thing to start to look at. How does it serve the greater good? How does our lot in life either fall prey to compare and despair and wanting more, or can we navigate this territory of our social structure and our location within it in a way that creates a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction? I think Warrior 2 is a great example of a pose that shows up for us in a way that empowers us to really fulfill our role in the mythic sociological realm. On one part, it represents strength and nobility, but in many other ways, Warrior 2 is this representation of a mindset that allows us to really be one that is focused, one that is respectful, one that is noble. Now, these are attributes that go along with being a yogi as well, but when we can show up in a sociological relationship, in relationship with others, in a way where we have focus and we're not swayed or influenced easily by others, it can give us ability to stand in our power in a really autonomous and efficacious way. The other thing is just showing up for a yoga practice in general, just going to a community class. You're going to be around people who also had some skin in the game. They had to risk something to be there on that day. The definition of Sangha is a group of like-minded individuals endeavored on a spiritual path or process or goal together. There's nothing wrong with doing yoga at home, but there is a special zhoosh that happens when you're in community with people where you have to show up in a way where demands something more of you than, especially giving way to maybe some of your lesser tendencies of your own character. Being around other people gives us a sounding board to pressure test our own belief systems, and it also allows us to be held accountable through our actions. Ultimately, the sociological mythic realm is about dharma. It's about social duty and the way that you fit into the larger scheme of other human beings. And dharma, a lot of times we like to romanticize that this is this huge, purposeful, great, mystical and romantic thing, but it's also just chopping wood, carrying water. It's doing the thing day in, day out. It's also those random acts of kindness and those thankless acts of service to our loved ones, and doing the thing that we know that's right, even when doing what's right doesn't feel good or pay a lot of money or pay off at all. Dharma is a way to make sure that essentially we're not siloed in our thinking, isolated in our existence, and we're accountable for sharing our gifts as well as being open to receive the gifts of others in the world. One of the things it asks us is, how can we love those people that we may not agree with or that we're not understanding around? It doesn't mean you have to be willing to consign with them. The other side of that coin is, are you allowing yourself to be teachable? Are you allowing yourself to have mentors in your life? Are you humbling yourself around people in a way that you're not just allowing yourself to go completely without guardrails in your life? Who are the people in your life that help keep you in check, that help keep you accountable? These are the ways in which you are map making the reality of your life. The people that you choose to be around, the people that you choose to love, and the people that you choose to have friction with are all people that are teaching you something about the process of going from point A to point B. The third mythic realm from Joesph Campbell's theory and philosophy is the psychological realm. This is where we arrive in conversation with our emotions, our desires, and in yoga philosophy, desires is known as kama. Kama is the crux of all spiritual philosophy. Every philosophy wants us to get free from suffering. Suffering arises from attachment. Attachment arises from desire. So it can be an easy trap to fall into, to think that, well, if I just get rid of my desire, I'll get rid of my suffering and I'll be free. And it's not really that easy. It doesn't really work that way. Some of the deeper questions, the less reductive questions that we have to ask ourselves are, how can I allow myself to not repress or overexpress my desires while still disciplining myself and transforming myself to be in alignment with that which serves me? One way yoga gives us the opportunity to explore the psychological realm is through heart openers and also conversely forward folds. So in back bends and heart openers, as sometimes they're called, we have an opportunity to really express the human relationship to the beauty of wonder and awe. I mean, obviously there's many other things that back bends are great for, but in terms of just orienting ourselves towards a perspective of gratitude around all that is and getting perspective shifted from the mundane to the profound is a wonderful gift. Forward folds offer us the same kind of perspective shift, but just internally. They give us the opportunity for a deep self-reflection to really understand that as we really sit in the posture, what's unfolding for us over time? What are we feeling? Where are we at? What is the sense of felt presence that we're embodying in that moment? Sometimes yoga is referred to as a science of the mind. The psychological realm is a really juicy one because it gives us this insight to explore who we are and get a clearer idea about what our desires are, how they shape our life, how they orient us towards the types of opportunities that are showing up in our life. If you find yourself feeling a great strain between the things that life is offering you and what you want, this is a really wonderful opportunity to explore some of those higher limbs and deeper philosophies of yoga. Sometimes what's called for is getting out of the head through a yoga practice. We certainly don't want to fall into the trap of spiritual bypass, but common practices like kirtan and ecstatic dance, these are great ways for practitioners to find a sense of self by really putting yourself out on a limb to express yourself to connect through expression, and to allow that expression to not be premeditated, to really allow it to come up naturally of its own volition and see what's there, observe it, embrace it, be present with it without judgment. These are all fantastic ways to navigate the territory of the psychological realm through the practices of yoga. The fourth mythic realm Joesph Campbell outlines is the mythic realm or mystical realm. So this is the realm that gives us the opportunity to think about the big questions in life. So this is similar, it kind of brings us full circle to the cosmological realm, where that is really seeking to find out empirical evidence around what things are from the macro to the micro. The mystical is subversive to that because it leads us into the unknown in ways that we're not necessarily guaranteed an answer, and we're actually enriched along the journey and brought closer to the destination the more refined those questions can become. Probably the greatest example of experiencing or exploring the mystical, mythical realm in a yoga practice is Shavasana. The most accessible pose, but probably the hardest to achieve in a quote-unquote right way. Shavasana isn't about checking out. It's also not about being fully present. We're simultaneously holding this ability to completely let ourselves drift and to completely be embodied in the passivity of disillusion. There's something about Shavasana also that allows the process of the yoga practice to fully blossom, to fully seed and root into the moment, that we must trust that our efforts have been enough, that we've done enough, that in this moment of actually surrendering, of letting go, that we're giving way for something beyond our own control and our own will to rise and take us into a transcendent state. And of course, meditation is the linchpin of all the practices of yoga. The more mindful we get, the more focused we get, the more we're able to use the mind to not just concentrate, to not just be present, to not just be awake and aware, but there's something more. There's something that happens as we wake up. There's something that happens as we gain a greater sense of clarity in our life. When we get this sattvic mind state, we do start to transcend belief systems. We start to transcend relationships in ways that might be toxic or codependent. We start to loosen our grip on the ways in which we have to hold on to positioning to make ourselves feel safe in the world. We transcend our own limits, in fact, through ways in which, by seated meditation, we're taught revelation, we're taught realization. Two ways to really practice this off the mat is breath and chanting. So when you're going through your world, are you aware of your breath? Are you tapping into the potential of utilizing this voluntary process and moving into a conscious state? Japa mantra is another great way to do this. Just simply repeating a really simple mantra while you're driving, while you're in the line at the grocery store. Simply just by putting in a placeholder of something that's a little bit more powerful, a little bit, some sacred juju like Ram or Om or something of that nature. So myths are obviously more than story. The cosmological taps us into that which is greater. Sociological taps us into our relationship at large. Psychological taps us into ourself and even the unknown aspect of the self. And of course the mystical takes us beyond. It takes us into that transcendent state of what is human spiritual potential's full capacity. Yoga is, I think, the best practice to really live these in a way that gives us an opportunity to translate into our real life how we're navigating this journey on our own, how we're really being unconscious about it, and how we can start to change conditioned, patterned belief systems from just our default mode to something that is intentional. Let me know in the comments which mythic realm resonated with you. Which one are you struggling with the most, or which one are you thriving in the most? Love to hear from you. We'll see you next time. Please hit the like button, subscribe, follow. Thank you.